Join us for another episode where real men have real conversations about leadership, relationship, morality, and dominion. Welcome to Mancode.
Well, hello, viewing audience. I'd like to thank and welcome you again to another exciting Mancode conversation. We are excited that you joined us today. My name is Jonathan Russell. As always, Mancode conversation is for everyone. So we definitely want you to like the video, subscribe to our channel, share this out, and drop in comments. If you have a topic you want the Mancode to bring up, drop that in. You have something to say about one of the videos or even anything that we're opinionating on. Drop that in. We want to hear from you because without you, we wouldn't be having a conversation. But let me go around and introduce my fellow brothers today. Y'all go ahead and introduce yourselves.
What's up, Malcolm Crawford? What's up?
I'm back with you, Gary Fant.
What's going on, everybody? I'm Austin. Good to see you again.
Welcome back to another episode of Mancode. Danielle Lewis.
Thank you, gentlemen. All right. Well, for you of those who were in on our last conversation, we definitely spoke the brotherhood, broke that down very well. Very dynamic, impactful talk. For those of you who may not have seen that, go back and rewatch it. You would definitely be blessed by that. That's definitely something that you would want to share out with young men, older men, any man in your life. And even you ladies will dig that too, because again, the fellowship piece, that applies to everybody. But in talking about brotherhood, one thing I was thinking about as a backdrop to that is some things that can kind of maybe taint brotherhood. And one thing that I think, and when you look at any group, whether it's a team or fraternity, any kind of order, you always have an area where there may be some gray. And I think one thing that sometimes may taint that is people comparing themselves. You know, you may have two people in a group, or let's say on a team, somebody may get a little bit more playing time than another, but they feel like they're just as good as. Somebody may get the final shot where they feel the other person feels like I'm just as good or better than them. So those comparisons can kind of build up and tear something that is strong, like a family, a brotherhood, or any type of foundation apart. So I just really want to ask, and speaking of comparing ourselves to others, really, when does that start?
Well, that's a good question. Actually, I would say comparison starts in the womb. You can get two pregnant mothers together and they're looking at each other and talking about, wow, look at you, look at your baby, look at this, and comparison size, comparison, how much it kicks, all this type of stuff. And, so it starts it starts real young. And I don't think it ever starts, but ever stops. For example, when kids are young, first grade, second grade, they're always looking around, trying to see what's what, are they bigger, are they smaller? I'm not going to go into too much more because I have a lot to say on that, but yeah, it starts early and continues pretty much into the grave. I might give you a funny story later, but I might drop that a little bit later on. But we'll talk about. I'll give some other people a shot right now.
All right.
Yeah, go ahead, Elder Fant. No, you got it.
I'll take it on because it's a piggyback off of Pastor Crawford, and I believe it's early on also. And I working at in the educational setting, I see a lot of that with the kids that early on, they're trying to compare themselves with people that are similar to them. And then they start mimicking the behaviors, whether they're positive or negative. They look at the behaviors and I want to be like him, or her, especially if there's a reward involved. And if you're rewarding that behavior, they want that same thing. So they're mimicking and mocking everything others do as they compare and try to find out their own identity.
Yeah, I agree 100% with that, Elder Fan. I even think back to when babies are first learning how to talk, right? One of the first things that they do is mimic the mouth movements of adults. We're constantly telling dad, say mama, say dada, always telling kids to say those things. So it's like, okay, if I watch somebody else's actions and repeat those, then that means I did something to get the validation of that particular person. And so it starts that young and it continues and it continues. And unfortunately, it turns from wanting to mimic to learn more information to comparing. And so now it's like, you get, like you said, you get to first grade, like, oh, he's not a better basketball player than me. He's not better at math than I am. And so you start to, once you build that competitive nature and realize that you're competing against each other, then I think that's when the comparison usually starts, because you always want to be better than the next man or the next person, if women are watching this podcast as well.
Yeah, for me, what I've realized is that comparison at base is judgment. And so because we're always looking at differences between behavior, differences between facial expressions, difference between right and wrong, it's at the base. Comparison is part of, or a manifestation of, one's will to choose. And so I think, comparison, as you guys have all stated, from birth, I just think we're hardwired, and this just is a manifestation of that.
Wow, I really gave some really good points on that. I would say, in my experience, I think comparison for me started really when I went to school. And I began to look around and see kids that had, better things than me. And you just begin to begin that social stack up a little bit. And that could be good or bad. I think in a lot of ways, the comparisons that I was held against, they were negative because it didn't work to build me up. It worked against me to tear me down. So I think that, again, y'all are all right. It starts in the womb and it continues throughout. And it just kind of takes a mature mind to really see that you're even doing that. But, and especially in dealing to men with this, we're all men, do we think that comparing ourselves kills our confidence at times? And being from a young man to an adult, I mean, think about that.
Yeah, I would say it definitely does. I mean, one example that sticks out in particular is the comparison of our body image, right? We see on TV, we see on social media, we see these athletes who are just chiseled, not everybody is blessed to be Jonathan, right? So you see these guys who are just chiseled and that's what you strive to be, right? But you diet, you go to the gym, but you just don't see those results coming. And then so you start to feel insecure about your body and what your image looks like. And I think that's one of the most common ways where comparing ourselves is detrimental to us. It's just, trying to be something that we're not, or if we don't have what this man has, if we don't have the car, if we don't have the lawnmower that this person had, simple things as simple as that. If we don't have those things, then we start to get insecure. We feel like we haven't arrived. We feel like we're not as successful in life as we should be because we don't have what the next man has.
Yeah, I want to jump in on that too. I agree, and with John, with Austin on that. In a certain respect, I feel that if the particular individual, whether she be male or female, if they lack confidence, if you have a good self-image and self-confidence, I think everybody has struggled with that at some point. But as you say, as you mature and grow with that, I think you get to a point, if you're confident with yourself, you know who you are. It doesn't affect you as much once you get to that level. But if you're insecure, I can definitely see it can definitely be a confidence killer. For example, men, women, we're always comparing ourselves. For example, like I say, if you go, how men are, you go into the locker room, men are looking at each other, making comparisons. You know what I'm saying? Looking at each other's body parts. If you just want to keep it real, you know what I'm saying? They're judging your manhood by certain things and so forth. You see, it's kind of juvenile, but that's what men do. They're looking around at you, and if you don't feel that you measure up, hey, you could, feel bad about it. But I think once you find out who you are and recognize that, hey, just because you didn't meet a certain standard or you don't look like this guy or that guy, you could feel insecure. But once you know who you are, I think you can rest in that and say, hey, you're well with yourself, and you know who you are, and and you're going about your business and you're doing well.
Yeah. So I don't know. I've never internalized comparison. I've always looked at comparisons as, we were talking about a second ago before we got on about the intermittent fasting. And I saw someone that had gotten some results comparing, saw a guy that had some results, and I wasn't envious of that person. I was like, how did you? My question has always been, if I see something that you have, I'm going to ask you how you acquired it or how you got it. And then if they're willing to share that information, then I'm going to try to apply it to myself in order for me to see those results for myself.
Like that take.
I agree with all of what the brother said, and I'll just add a short piece because I believe everything they say. My thoughts would be based on your foundation, how you were raised, if you were supported, giving affirmatives, building your self-esteem. I don't think that there would be any problem. But if you don't have that base or that foundation underneath you, I think you can easily go into that piece where you're not feeling like you know, not feeling confident, you know, as to who you are. And then that's when I think it lends to trying to see what other people are doing, and then trying to fit that into your lifestyle or what you're looking to achieve.
Can I ask this real quick, Jonathan?
Yeah.
As we're talking here, I wonder sometimes if at the foundation of it, it lends itself to how African Americans view themselves in America, so to speak. So as growing up as an African American male in Detroit, we were inundated with, you have to work twice as hard, you have to do da 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 in order for you to be on the same level, same playing field. So for me, it always, in my mind, and what they were showing me was like, all right, you got to work twice as hard. So for me, it was always a grind. For me, it was always, you know, and I think that's probably where, for me, if we talk about comparison, it's like, I see what that person has. Now I have to work twice as hard in order to get what that person has. I don't have time to be envious of the person, because I already know that I'm already working twice as hard in order for me to get to that same place. Does anybody else, you know, subscribe to that, or?
No, I'm following you, because I look at comparisons on a 2-scale point, and one can be good, one can be bad. And it all depends on how your approach is to it. You may form a comparison, not so much from an envious standpoint, but you're setting a bar for yourself. Almost that person is, in a literal sense, without calling it that, a role model, because you're looking to model their path to success, not so much mimic them. On the other scale, you have a comparison where you're looking at that high bar and you might say, man, I'll never get there. So it really, you gentlemen were right. It has a lot to do with you foundation, because it can kill your confidence, even depending upon how you look at it and approach it initially. That's one thing. I think when you take that from an adult standpoint, you weigh that against where we measure ourselves in terms of age. Okay, so by age 30, I should be at this point in my life. Okay, when I was at 30, I was not at that point in my life. When you get to age 40, you should be at this stage. You should be, you know, into your career. You should maybe be on your second home. You should be near debt free. I mean, so when you compare yourself against the social scale, it'll kill your confidence quick, because you get to listen to all the generalized rationalization of where you should be. You'll even forget the path that you may be on might be better than that. So I think that definitely can flow both ways. So the foundation is key. But one thing in looking at that, and
before you move on, I wanna just jump right in where you left off. I agree with what you said. I like how you said that it could go both ways depending on how you look at it, because you know, sometimes comparison gets the negative rap, like you're hating and all this type of stuff. I want to be like that particular person, but really that's not a bad thing, because sometimes we should compare, as you said, to the Bible says, Paul said, follow me as I follow Christ, and be imitators of me, and all those types of things. See, so if someone is that person that you aspire to be, or see some good things in that person's life, there's nothing wrong with setting that person as a standard that you can compare yourself and say, hey, those are some attributes that I like, and I wouldn't mind being like that, you know. But because we all have our individual uniqueness, you don't be a copycat, but you want to search for certain things. So yeah, but our ultimate thing that we should compare ourselves with is God, who is the standard, which we know that we can't attain that, but we can strive for it. So I think, yeah, if you know, you don't want to take it to the fact where if you don't match that person, then you start feeling bad about yourself. That's not the direction you want to go. Okay, I don't measure up like that, but it doesn't mean that I'm less than. You see, so as long as you can strive for it, yeah, I compare all the time. You know, if you're honest, this Mancode group, you may not admit it, you might do it subconsciously, but I bet after some of these sessions, we say, man, Jonathan threw down. I wonder, did I do good? You know, or Brother Daniel was on point. Was I, you know, how did I do against all these brothers? You know, you might not say that, but you know, it may come through your head at some point.
Yeah,
I'll throw in amen. Amen, Pastor Crawford.
If I could add to this point, I think one thing that you all said is so important is having that foundation of where your confidence comes from. Because, you know, going back to what Donnell said, thinking about it racially, right? For me, I guess a prime example for me was, you know, I spent 8 years in corporate America, right? And for me, one thing that really killed my confidence a lot of times that I had to check myself on is knowing that I measure up, but still not reaching those levels where, you know, some of my white counterparts were achieving.
Right.
You know, like I look at my numbers and I'm like, I'm blowing these people out the water, but I'm not getting the promotions. I'm not getting the looks. I'm not getting the calls. Like, what's going on? And so, like, you know, Pastor Malcolm and Jonathan said, like, that foundational piece is so important, because when you do measure up and when you are at that level where you should be getting, you know, those promotions and everything, and you just continue to get overlooked, like that can shake your confidence like no other. And so you just really have to be mindful of the fact that, you know, no matter what the world says, you know, I am who God says that I am, right? And you got to constantly keep that in the back of your mind. And, you know, what is for you, you'll have, right? And so you just gotta be patient and continue to, you know, be intentional about working hard, building that self-confidence, and always like loading yourself with scripture that reminds you of what your identity is.
Amen.
That's fabulous. Yes. I'm glad y'all caveated into that, because that needs to be told. And again, if you don't know the Lord, you really don't know exactly where you're going. So you can get pulled anywhere. And that's when you get wrong. But this is just speaking to us. What goes through your mind when a stranger asks you, not somebody that you know, or I mean, just a stranger asks you, so what do you do? You know, just like that, you know, without knowing you or anything like that, what do you do? What goes through your mind with that? Because I got thoughts on that. I had that happen a lot, but I'll give you y'all take on.
I would
They're trying to
say,
size you up.
go ahead, Daniel. Go ahead.
I think they're trying to size you up. I think they may look at how you handle yourself, how you speak, maybe how you dress. They have already kind of constructed some type of opinion of who you are, and now they want to know where your station in life is. You know, so that's what I think.
Why is that important though? I mean, just in getting to know my character.
People want to.
Everybody has
different... count your coins.
or they may. So everybody has different intentions. So it's really kind of hard to say, you know, why they're asking you that question. Maybe they admire you. Maybe they're trying to see if, you know, you're somebody that can be leveraged. You know what I'm saying? You know, maybe they're threatened by you and see you as competition. You know what I'm saying? It's like different people have different motives for asking the question. It'll be the second question they ask you that reveals intention. So
yeah, I think speaking on identity in regards to that particular question, Jonathan, I think the most important thing in, I guess, how people respond to what we say is exactly what we say. If the first thing that comes out of our mouths is our job, you know, what we do for a living, then I think that shows our value system. But my perspective on this has changed a whole lot, right? So anytime I hear the question, what do you do? Yeah, oh, I work for this company, you know, I graduated from this college, you know, did that, just like going down my credentials. But I've kind of changed that approach to say, you know, somebody asks, you know, Austin, what do you do? Well, I'm married. My wife and I, we enjoy traveling. I love hiking, play basketball, golf, I run. Like I do all of this stuff and just like name off hobbies that fulfill me, that are important to me, right? Versus going through the list of what I do for a living And a lot of times I notice like people's energy just changes up real quick once you give that kind of response, because they're expecting, like I said, to like count your coins, like Donnell said, seeing what they can do to leverage your profession. You know, what kind of assets do you have that could be valuable to them? So that's my response to that question is, you know, hey, I love this, I love this. You know, I go to church, I play drums at church, grew up playing drums in church, just going through all of this stuff. And it's like, wow, okay, that's pretty cool. And I think that changes the direction of the conversation as well as the person's perception of who you are as a person.
Love that. All right, I'm gonna go
I
back
tell
to
you one of
my
the more,
and write that down.
I say one of the more crazy things is look at somebody's response when the man says, "I'm a trophy husband." When asked the question, it was like, you know, what do you do? Oh, I'm a trophy husband. You know, and look at everybody's response, because the response is always is funny to me, because people aren't used to hearing that, and then they don't even know how to respond to it when that is said. Because to Austin's point, usually they think that the person is going to spit off, you know, well, I work for such and such, or I do such and such and such and such. You know, to hear I'm a trophy husband, or I'm a stay-at-home dad, or something like that. Sometimes those things, you know, aren't heard of, and then people's perception of them actually changes as well.
Yeah, I like to say I'm such, but my wife would say different. All right.
I would like to just add, if for me, you know, I've taken on, I've seen it, and I've been involved. I like what Austin said about in the workforce. You know, it's an opportunity for you to network. That's how I viewed it. You know, that question when it came up, I said, oh, it's an opportunity for me to network, sell myself. So it may open some doors, you know. And then afterwards, now that's the old. And the new says, okay, I'm a man of God, number one, you know, I serve the Lord, you know, that's my new comeback. But prior to that, and this is a nuance, you know, for me, changing gears late in life to put Christ first. And now that I'm putting Christ first, he gives me everything I need to say. You know, just like the word says, you go forth and you don't have to worry about what you need to say. I'll give you that, you know. So that's where I'll end that.
Wow, you guys are giving some great wisdom here. But my position on that is, as I get older, I guess things have changed me a little bit, because number one, when people ask me that question, I have a different response, you know, because like you say, most men, as Danielle said, they will normally come back with their acting like, what do you do for a job, living, this type of thing. My position now is, like I say, I don't say a whole lot about that. I'm kind of like Austin. I kind of look at the person. First of all, I put the question back, what do you do? You know, because you're not going to interrogate me. I look at like sometimes, you know, you're a stranger. First of all, the question said strange. I might say, you know, we're at the Y Center working out. And I have told guys, I said, man, are you the FBI? You know, asking me all these questions. You know what I'm saying? I take that position, man. You don't know me. You know, you gonna come in and start asking me, what do? I don't know what you're for. Maybe I'm a little bit cynical with that. But, you know, you have to get to know me a little bit before I start sharing too much nowadays where I'm at in my life. Like I say, I'm retired. I'm not looking for that next job, that next promotion that come up and all that. See, so my position has changed a little bit. Man, I'm not giving a whole bunch of information. You know, you got to tell me something about you, and then I can see how much I want to give back to you. That's my position in most cases. I'm not going to say I do that all the time, but you know, yeah, I kind of do that sometimes.
No, I like how everybody put a different flip on that, and you took it away a lot of times from the what I do to who I am, because I think that's more of a proper approach. You know, if I want to get to know someone, I want to get to know characteristics. You know, I have a job, but my job does not define me. My personality may go totally 180 against the grain of what I do in my professional life. So you can't always stack those two up together. And I think that's just something that needs to kind of be relooked at, because again, it's not a competition. And when that's been posed to me, I've looked at it as a competitive sense. Again, like you said, Austin, stacking the coin up. So sometimes you'll get people that ask you that you know, that coin flip times you 10 times, and you know you're looking on the other end of the stick, but at the same time, it's always a matter of measuring up. So no wrong points there. Y'all hit that exact.